Welcome to Units Raised to Powers 2. In this video, we'll work through two more problems that involve conversion factors that we may have to adjust to make them have the proper units for our squared or cubed unit problems. So make sure you've got some paper, a pencil, and your calculators handy, and be ready to pause the video as needed so that you can give yourself a chance to try out these problems on your own and see how you do. So problem number 1. How many gallons of water are in a swimming pool filled to a volume of 4,500 cubic feet? And I will give you some information that 1 gallon, that's a volume unit, is defined as 231 cubic inches. So start by figuring out what information you have at the beginning and what is your goal. So you want to think about what you're presented with, what can you visualize, what do you know about, and what is the question? What are you trying to basically change the units into? What are we trying to do there? And then we'll make a plan for getting from the beginning to the end. So in this problem, we are starting with the volume of the swimming pool. When it is filled, it will have a volume of 4,500 cubic feet. That's what we're starting with. And we're trying to determine how many gallons. So a different volume unit. So units of gallons. And we do have a connection between gallons and cubic inches based on the definition of what a gallon is. It's an exact number. Also happens to be a whole number, but that is just a coincidence. So we know how gallons and cubic inches are related. So if I could somehow get to cubic inches, I'd be able to find gallons. So I need to think then about, since I start with cubic feet, do I have a way to connect that to cubic inches? And you think I should be able to do that because I know how feet and inches are related. I just have to make some adjustment to relate cubic feet and cubic inches. So we can do this in 2 steps. The challenge, though, is that for that first conversion, we know what the relationship is in 1 dimension. We know how inches, not cubed, but just inches, are related to feet. And we need to know how they are related in a volume space in terms of all 3 dimensions, in terms of a cubed unit. So we're going to have to make some adjustments to that conversion factor. Take a look at the units in the second conversion factor, though, the one in green. So we know how gallons, which is a volume unit, but it doesn't have any cubes in it. The word gallon already means a certain amount of space or volume taken up. And we know how it's related to cubic inches. Right? And that's what we need to know. We don't need to change anything at all about that last relationship. It already includes information about cubed units, the cubic inches, and information about a volume without cubic units, the gallon. So we don't need to make any adjustments there. All right, so we're going to use our powers to change that first conversion factor by cube or raising to the 3rd power both sides. And we're going to do nothing at all to the second one. We're going to use it as is. All right, so now we'll set up our dimensional analysis. Note again that that first conversion factor, the one that we're going to need to adjust to make the units cubed, we're going to not just change the units, but we're going to change the whole conversion factor. We have to cube the whole thing. We can't just randomly change the units to be whatever we want. So we will go ahead and cube that whole conversion factor. So we'll put that conversion factor in there properly. And then we will cube it when it comes time to do the mathematical part of it and when it comes time to cancel the units. Okay. And then our last conversion factor we didn't have to change at all. Right? It's already got units of cubed inches in there and gallons, which is already a volume unit. Make sure when you carry out the calculation you remember to cube everything that's inside those parentheses where that power of 3 is. All right, so our units of cubic feet will cancel, right? We have cubic feet at the beginning. We have just feet inside that parentheses, but remember we're going to cube everything, and that means the units as well. So that will become cubic feet, and it will cancel. Right? For the same reason, our inches in that parentheses inside that that set that's raised to the third power will become cubic inches, and it will cancel with the cubic inches that are already present in our second conversion factor, and that our units of gallons will remain. So mathematically, we end up with a very large number with lots of decimal places from our calculator. We need to then go back through and look at the significant figures in each of the factors that we use. And we have 2 in our initial value, right? There's no decimal point, so 4,500 really does only have 2 significant figures. Our 12 inches equals a foot is a definition. It has infinite significant figures. And our 1 gallon is also defined as, so it is exactly 231 cubic inches, also infinite significant figures. So we need to round that final result to have only 2 significant figures. You can put it in scientific notation, or you can leave it in decimal form, and we have 34,000 gallons, or 3.4 times 10 to the 4th gallons. Our second question is a little more straightforward. It has no story associated with it. How many cubic feet are in 728 cubic centimeters? So again, please pause the video and figure out, again, where we're starting, what our goal is, try and develop a plan, think about what conversion factors you know and which, if any of them, need to be adjusted, and then go ahead and try and solve it and set it up, and we'll restart the video when you're ready, and we'll take a look at the answers. Okay, so this one, again, being a little more straightforward, we're going to start with 728 cubic centimeters, and our goal is to find cubic feet, feet to the third power. So in developing our plan, right, we can think about how those things are related, and we know how to get from centimeters to inches. It's one of those conversions I'll always give to you. And we've used the inches to feet conversion a bunch of times in our practice here with these unit conversions. So we know we can get from inches to feet. The challenge is that these are not linear units. Right? So these conversion factors that are either provided to us or we know from our experience living with this system of units, we know those are all for linear units, things in one dimension, just a length. And we're looking at a volume here, so these are things in 3 dimensions. So we're going to have to adjust both of our conversion factors this time. And that is a possibility. We may have to adjust many of our conversion factors. So we will, when we use them, remember to cube them. That means the whole thing, numerator, denominator, units, numbers, everything that's in that conversion factor will be raised to the third power. All right, so you see how it's a little bit different this time. This time we've got powers of 3 for both of our conversion factors. So we'll need to remember that when we get to the calculating part there. Okay, so we'll put in our conversion factors again, paying attention to which one goes on top and which one goes on the bottom based on which units we want to cancel. And we can double check that our units of cubic centimeters will cancel. We start with cubic centimeters. Our centimeters in our inch to centimeter conversion will be cubed eventually when we apply that. It will apply to all the numbers and the units inside those parentheses. So that centimeters in the denominator will become cubic centimeters and cancel. And the same thing will happen with our inches. Both of them will get cubed as the process occurs there, along with the number that goes with them. So the units of inches cubed will cancel, and we're left with just the units of cubic feet. Okay? And when we carry out the math, again, our calculator gives us a great big long number with lots of decimal places, and we need to go back and think about our significant figures. So there are 3 significant figures in the value we start with, and infinite significant figures in both of our conversion factors. Both of them are from definitions, and when we cube them, they are still both from definitions, and they are still both going to have an infinite number of significant figures. So our answer should be rounded to have only 3 significant figures. So again, I'll remind you that those leading zeros are not significant, never ever. So they will not be counted here. So we're going to keep the 2 and the 5 and the 7 for our 3 significant digits. and look at what comes after the 7. And since it is less than a 5, we will just ignore it, and we will not need to change the 7. We won't need to round it up to anything else. So we have 0.0257 cubic feet as our result. Thank you for joining me for Units Raised to Powers 2. We'll hope to see you soon.